Well, the journey that led me to the work that I do today began by about the age of 14. And at that point in my life, I was a very unhappy, lost teenager. I felt like I didn't fit in at home, in my family. I felt like I didn't fit in at school. And I felt really bad about myself. And it culminated to the point where I was so depressed that I actually didn't even want to live anymore. But instead of checking out, which I'm glad I didn't, I ran away from home, trying to search for happiness out there. So I hitchhiked to Key West, Florida, with $10 in my pocket with a friend who was 16. She was 16, I was 14. And we went to Key West, Florida, and we actually lived homeless on the streets for a while. And I was terrified. So I went back home and I struggled through school. And right after high school, I moved out to California. And I wanted to be a singer, and I actually became a professional singer. And then when I was about 22, I met the person that became my husband. And I quit my career, and I moved off to his country, and I decided to marry my Prince Charming and go off and live happily ever after. Well, the marriage didn't work out. And in my 30s, I found myself separating, alone with 2 children to take care of, and absolutely terrified. I sold everything we owned, and I came back with my children, and I had no money, I had no means of taking care of myself, and I was very depressed, and I was financially devastated. So I started to say to myself, wait a minute, what is happening here? Why do I keep ending up in these situations where I feel on the brink of suicide? And that led me to start looking more deeply at what is driving human behavior. The divorce was actually a wonderful pathway or awakening, even though it was incredibly painful, as divorces are, because it led me to investigate what had happened and finally to connect the dots between the early conditioning and the beliefs that I had internalized about myself, which caused a tremendous pain and confusion and frustration that I constantly looked outside of myself to seek relief from. The work that I do with people is to help them uncover their authentic self. And that is the person they were born to be. When we are born, we all have tremendous unlimited potential. We have our innate personality traits, we have strengths that we're born with, we have gifts and talents, and we also have a very intact and healthy self-esteem. Then we come into this thing called a family, and the life conditioning process begins. And depending on the circumstances of the family we grew up in, what the environment was, what the role modeling was, what experiences we had growing up, will determine how much of our innate wholeness, how much of our potential is intact and how much gets compromised and gets eroded through the life conditioning process. So by the time most of us grow up, we take these patterns of thought and behavior with us from childhood into adulthood, and we are no longer whole. Now, remember in school, the law of homeostasis, which is all living systems are seeking balance at any given time. So in the unconscious quest for wholeness, what do? We look outside of ourselves, usually to another person, our ideal partner, our soulmate, to complete us. Or we look to a job, prestige, money, material things, to make us feel whole, to make us feel worthwhile, to make us feel secure. Whatever those parts are that got lost during the life conditioning process, we seek to bring back into the fold from outside. So my work is really about reclaiming your innate wholeness, understanding what are the circumstances that have put a lid on your potential, and how can you take the lid off and retrieve those lost parts so that you have all parts of you which are necessary to create and live the life to which you aspire, to what I call live boldly. Instead of living a life that is based on fear, you're living a life in which you feel fearless. You are free from the shackles of your life conditioning. So it's helping people to really connect the dots from where they've been, the choices that they've made based on the conditioning and the role modeling and all of the things that they encountered growing up that have created the life that they have today, and what are the new patterns of thinking and behavior that they need to now develop to align with their current lives, because they're not children anymore, their lives have changed, and align with the lives that they hope to create and that they aspire to and that they deserve.